And ladies and gentlemen, we're back at our Future of Customer Interaction Made Easy live event for the afternoon session. We've got some really interesting presentations coming up with people joining us from all over the world, from the States, the UK, and even Germany. He'll be talking English, by the way. Starting with the United States, we've got a very interesting presentation from the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Precisely Engage One, presenting a really interesting market research report about the post-COVID-19 period that they have done, and that's guiding us to take a lot of decisions. So I welcome virtually to the stage Mr. Greg van den Heuvel. So,
good afternoon, and thank you, Patrick, and to the Dialog Group for hosting this event and inviting us to participate. I'm Greg van den Heuvel. I'm the EVP and GM of Engage One from Precisely. Last year, we participated in this event with hundreds of customers in Holland, and today we meet digitally. COVID has changed things for us personally, from a business perspective, and really how we think about customer experience. On the next slide, the pandemic really has changed customer engagement forever. Organizations have been forced to digitally transform whether they like it or not. Customer engagement is now digitally driven. But do organizations have the right experience optimized for customer engagement in this new normal? With this in mind, we undertook two very important research pieces, one with Corinium Intelligence, looking at business leaders, and the other one with the CMO Council, talking directly to consumers. On the next slide, the first was a report with Corinium. We conducted a survey of over 100 UK CX leaders. These were companies with 10,000 employees or greater, and we conducted this survey in August and September. We interviewed department heads, directors, VPs, SVPs, and C-level executives. And they were asked questions about how the global pandemic has affected customer behavior, how it changed their organization's perception of CX, and what disruption COVID-19 has meant for their CX strategies and investment plans. The findings really can be broken down into four categories: the COVID effect on CX strategy. Secondly, the customer behavior changed as a result of COVID and what customers want. Third, the barriers of success. And finally, the technology CX leaders are investing in. If we just hold on that slide for a moment, what we found was that COVID has in fact been a huge influencing factor on CX strategies. 35% of leaders, 35% of the leaders that we actually interviewed are viewing CX strategy as more important than before COVID, and 19% are viewing CX strategy as their top priority. And these shifts in strategy and execution have been caused by COVID. They're actually going to have a permanent and very lasting effect. 33% of those surveyed say they expect to shutter some stores, branches, and offices, and 25% say they expect digital experiences to replace brick and mortar entirely. This digital shift is permanent and will permeate out to all types of experiences we will provide to customers moving forward. So on the next slide, we have to think about the customers. Customers are now expecting even greater digital experiences. CX leaders have noticed some big changes in their customer behavior. In just a few months, 50% of those customers surveyed are now expecting more seamless and integrated experiences. 55% say they are now likely to expect more digital self-serve or digital tools to be available. And 54% say customers are more open to using chatbots or similar automated tools to self-serve their experience. On the next slide, We wanted to hear not only from business leaders, go back one, Patrick. We wanted to hear not only from business leaders, but we wanted to speak to customers themselves. So for the second year in a row, we partnered with the CMO Council. We surveyed more than 2,000 consumers across 6 countries, representing all 5 key generations, to understand how COVID affected their preferences in communicating with brands, what channels they were putting more importance on, and what was really going on to make or break a relationship with these brands. So on the next slide, we'll see the top 5 traits that consumers want when communicating with brands. And it shows a real shift to this new digital first world. Number 1, consumers want the ability to escalate to a live person who can help them when needed. Now, this doesn't mean consumers are going to speak to a live person, but knowing they can have access to that channel if and when they need it is the number 1 trait customers want from their brands. Number 2, communication has to be personalized based on previous interactions with the organizations. Consumers felt brands should know who they are, they should know their history, so that they can have a more seamless experience. This is critical to a consumer or a CX experience. Number 3, the communication has to allow consumers to digitally self-serve, to get the answers they need quickly. Again, to see a digital self-serve experience as the top priority for consumers this year is critical. Number 4, communication has to be based on context of the engagement. So using real-time data in a very smart way is critical to a seamless experience. And finally, the experience has to allow a consumer to select the engagement channels of choice that they want at any time. So an omni-channel experience is critical. Next slide, Patrick. So what happens when you get it wrong? So our research shows that consumers or customers are increasingly getting frustrated with disconnected experiences. What do we mean by disconnected? It means an experience that doesn't flow across channels of engagement in a very seamless way. Customers want an experience that pivots from one channel of engagement to another without having to repeat themselves. As you can see in this survey, 87% are suggesting they're getting frustrated. And more importantly, 73% are suggesting that this frustration is leading to brand abandonment. So what's this mean in the world of CX? Well, on the next slide, you can see there have been shifting priorities of CX leaders and the key channels of engagement that consumers are demanding. So what's this mean from an investment perspective? Where do you need to place your bets to meet and exceed customer expectations? So to answer these questions, we pivoted back to our original Corinium research, and we asked the question to our CX leaders of where they will be investing in 2021. And this is what they told us. 60% of the CX leaders say they want to invest in digital data integration. You must ensure you're using the most accurate and comprehensive data to enhance your digital engagements. Second, 46% of the leaders want to invest in multi-channel CX platforms that allow for a connected digital experience. 42% of the respondents want to invest in chatbots with live takeover capabilities. And 37% want to invest in chatbots with natural language processing engines. You see, not all chatbots are created equal. You must ensure that you're deploying a chatbot which has the elements that customers want to use. 37% say they're investing in digital self-service platforms. Customers want digital self-service. And finally, and most innovatively, 32% want to invest in interactive personalized video content, not static video content that greets you by name, tells you what the weather is like. They want real data to create interactive, unique video experiences that are highly personalized to each individual user. We are going to see some of these exciting technologies in action this afternoon as we welcome our presenters. Patrick, on the last slide, I really want to thank you and the Dialog Group again for hosting this event. I hope this sets the stage for the remainder of the presentations. I hope everyone enjoys the afternoon, and thank you very much for the invite to today.
Well, Greg, thank you very much for those kind words, and I'll have to give them right back to you, as we're proud and honored that you came out of bed so early, because we know it's 7 o'clock in the morning for you. So thank you for that, but also for sponsoring this event and helping us out in our times of need with customers. So we're mutually dependent, right? So that's what we like. I've got a question. This is really interesting piece of research, and to all the viewers at home, you'll get this research from us. But what I wanted to know is, you run the company that offers a lot of the solutions that this research talks about. How did this influence you running the business, and did it shift your priorities?
Yeah, it did. You're going to see from both Gerhard and Chris some exciting technology that we've been working on. We've invested more heavily in not only the digital self-serve experience, but chatbots, interactive and personalized video, making the user experience more interactive and easy to navigate. And we've also connected our responsive messaging platform to these two types of channels: video, chat, and responsive messaging, all connected in one seamless platform that you can turn on or off those channels as needed. We're finding that based on this research, businesses require innovative channels like this to engage consumers in a more unique and differentiated way. So we have invested heavily in this technology, and I think you'll find the demonstrations and presentations that Chris and Gerhard will give you will be highly engaging.
Okay, that's good to know, and I'm sure they will. As a matter of fact, in our own demo, we heavily make use of the technology to do our digital car insurance onboarding, which I invite you to look at, because we've translated it in English. I would be proud to give it to you personally. Do I see there's a question for you from the audience?
Yes, there is a question of Gaston. So, yeah, the research found that 55% of the CX leaders say their customers now expect a seamless self-service experience. What experiences and channels should businesses integrate first to get the highest return on their investment? Where is the biggest opportunity? So, Greg.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking that. So look, if the data is wrong, the experience will be wrong. You have to integrate the data up front. Understanding the consumer, their behavior, and orchestrating that data in a way that provides for a very unique communication is critical. I would start with making sure your data is right. It's highly integrated with marketing platforms, with ERP platforms, and with other platforms is vital. Otherwise, every form of communication that you push out will be wrong. And that would be a starting point. The second place I would look at is making sure that you have connected channels. There's over 15 channels on average deployed by businesses today. And most of those channels are not connected at all, which leads to CX problems and frustration. So I would make sure that your channels are fully connected across the departments in which you operate your CX experiences through.
Yeah, clear answer. And another question, personal one. As a global leader of the company and being international, do you see big differences in the world during this pandemic of requests or focus on certain channels or communication?
Not a lot of differences. I did get a call, interesting, out of the UK as COVID broke out, from a CEO whose call center unexpectedly was abandoned. He had 40 people deployed in his call center. It vacated overnight. He found that he could not answer customer questions. This was a utility company that had to provide services to its customers, and he asked for help. And that same cry for help came from Milan, a customer that a CEO I was talking to out of Milan. It's the same situation. Companies felt like they had digitally transformed and were prepared for just about anything. But when call centers vacated and they were unable to answer the questions, they realized that their CX strategies had fallen short and their plans to execute had fallen short. So we were asked to deploy chatbots in that call center in the UK. We did so in 5 days with live agent takeover, and we satisfied that customer in a very, very unique way. We found these cries for help globally. It's no different in the US than it is in Italy, the UK, Germany, or Holland. The same issues are prevalent.
Thank you, Greg. With that
Thank you.
unifying message, so to speak, that's a good way to end this one. Again, thank you for getting out of bed so early. You're welcome to log on into the platform, view the other presentation, and have discussions with us. Thank you so very much. And we'll switch it over to your colleague, Chris Cummings, who is a product manager, digital strategy for Precisely. I will see if he's already here. Yes, we've got Chris on the line.
All right. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Chris. Good to have you here. So you're going to talk to you're going to talk to us about to grow our business and delight customers with seamless, data-driven, personalized interactions. And I don't know if you followed the morning session, but the bar is high because that's just about the Holy Grail we were discussing around. So we're very anxious to see what your presentation will bring us and the insights it will give the audience. And if there are any questions from them, I will relay them back to you at the end of the presentations. So take it away.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. So it's good to be here today to talk with you. Hope I don't let you down, but we're going to talk about how you can grow your business by delivering seamless, personalized digital experiences that delight your customers, but more importantly, give your customers what they need when they need it. If we go to the next slide. So I'm sure Greg has touched on some of this, but as a business, Precisely is focused on data integrity and innovative ways in which that data can be applied to make compelling customer experiences that drive business results. And so we released a research report a few days ago that we commissioned from Cranium Intelligence, and it really looked at the impact of COVID-19 on businesses. We surveyed 100 CX leaders, people who hold senior positions, department heads, directors, VPs, C-level executives, and we found significant changes in how businesses are evolving in the age of COVID. As you can see from that quote there from Brian Stewart of AXA, the biggest shift for many companies has been moving from in-person interactions to digital, with 79% of CX leaders saying they've seen an increase in digital customer interactions. And CX leaders don't see that changing post-pandemic. So I think that was really interesting. 55% say that customers will be more likely to use digital self-service going forward. But the picture is complicated because while most respondents did see this trend toward digital technologies accelerating, at the same time, they also agreed that there are some aspects of the job that will always just require a human touch. So that means CX leaders will need to be very thoughtful in how they manage those experiences so they can deliver the kinds of seamless, personalized customer experiences that people want on the channels that they prefer. And yet at the same time, enabling customers to escalate to human agents when needed. If we go to the next slide. We'll see here that CX leaders are reporting disruption basically across all core customer journeys. from the research stage to sales to onboarding, all the way through to renewals. And this is because offices are closed or in-person interactions are limited and situations are changing all the time. So people just can't interact with brands the way that they used to. Client onboarding journeys have been especially effective. If you look at that column, over 80% of CX leaders are reporting disruption there, and 51% of them describe it as a major disruption. So CX leaders are adjusting their strategies, reimagining these key customer journeys, and implementing solutions that either improve them or entirely replace these touch points that have been affected. One respondent, the head of data and analytics at ACS, so he said, it's about being prepared to pivot quickly and being able to tell people what they'll be doing. So that way customers can understand what their options are and what resources are available to help them. Go to the next slide. Take a look at some of the investments. So in response to these market conditions, CX leaders are more focused than ever on using data to deliver more seamless and personalized customer experiences. At the start of the pandemic, businesses were really focused on remote call center capabilities. That seems to be less of a priority now, kind of looking at the months ahead. Instead, as you can see, they plan to upgrade their data integration, their data integrity, or their enrichment technologies. They plan to invest in multi-channel CX platforms, and they're planning to install chatbots with live takeover capabilities. These three technologies look to be the most popular CX investments of 2021, with 60%, 46%, and 42% respectively of all the survey respondents stating their desire to invest in them. Again, it's about providing data-driven personalized engagements across channels and even across parts of your business. As I was joining the call, I heard some conversation around that, right? This idea. So internally, your organization might have different silos. So maybe billing doesn't talk to customer support, and customer support doesn't talk with the social media team, whatever the mix is. Customers don't look at that kind of siloed dysfunction and think, all right, that's okay. It's just a social media team. They didn't know. I don't, yeah. They don't look at it that way. They don't see a business in all its different pieces, all its different departments. They just see you, right? One company, one brand. And if any one part of that brand lets them down, it can change how they view the entire company, even one that they're passionate about. I remember some research from PwC not that long ago. It said that 59% of customers will leave a brand that they love after just just 2 or 3 negative interactions, right? That's a brand that they love. So CX leaders are keenly aware of this kind of stuff, and that's part of what's driving their interest in these investments. If we go to the next slide, just to add some more complications to the mix here. So at the same time, there's this massive competition for your customers' attention, right? Every day, practically every moment of the day, your customers are under siege. There's content coming at them constantly across different devices, different channels, and that onslaught of information is having an impact on us, right? So you can see here in 2000, the average human attention span was 12 seconds. For comparison, the average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. And now, collectively, all of us humans are at an average of 8 seconds. So it's not great. That statistic, though, is also a little misleading because you might have trouble focusing on a 30-minute meeting, but you can probably also binge watch the latest season of your favorite Netflix series without a problem, right? So what's going on here? It's to reach your customers, that old idea of right message, right channel, right time. Yeah, that thinking still applies, but it is more complicated now. Different channels, different devices, different situational contexts. So it's about overcoming those kind of challenges. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, so what we're seeing out there to overcome those challenges, organizations are evolving. They need to evolve to a higher standard. And we'll look at this from an outside in from a customer's perspective, and then an inside out from the point of view of the business. For the customer, these kinds of interactions need to be quick, providing real customer value. They need to be contextual, personalized to the customer, customized to their specific circumstances and preferences. And there needs to be a sense of accountability in the experience, a feeling that this experience was easy and natural, that the experience overall was coherent, logical, and it resolved the issue, whatever the issue was. That's kind of the outside in view. If we look inside out, those same concepts apply. Yeah, as a business, you don't have time to wait, months or even weeks to engage your customers. You need the ability to quickly deliver engaging experiences because time waits for nobody, right? And as we've seen, customers are expecting quick, personalized experiences today, not at some far off kind of future date. Customers are expecting also that you know them. They want contextual experiences on the channels that they use. So you need solutions that can take advantage of your existing marketing stack, that integrates with your CRM systems so you can personalize those experiences and then deploy them to the channels and devices that your customers care about and actually use. And then in terms of accountability in the system, it, you shouldn't have to wait yeah, a week or more to find out how your latest campaign is performing. You need real-time analytics so you can understand how your customers are engaging with your communications and then take action as needed. So if we go to the next slide, what we're going to do now is go through an example use case to showcase how you can use a variety of digital engagement technologies to create those kind of quick, contextual, personalized experiences that customers want and also provide a view into how it's done. So what we have up here, we had onboarding. That was one of those customer journeys that's been really impacted globally by world events. So we'll focus on that kind of journey. We'll view the journey through a sort of financial lens to make it a bit more understandable, but hopefully you'll see how really this kind of experience could apply to virtually any vertical. Since all businesses need to onboard new customers, they need to manage various costs and adjust to our new normal. All right, so our user in this example is Veronica. She registered for a new account recently, and what we'll do is proactively engage her with a welcome email. This email links to a personalized interactive video to onboard her as a new customer and then guide her to the next logical step. In this case, for her, it's going to be registering for self-service and downloading the bank's new app. As she's going through that process, she has questions, which will be answered by the bank's chatbot. But then she asks a question that requires human intervention. So the chatbot seamlessly escalates Veronica to a live agent who answers her question and provides that human touch at just the right moment. Later on, an event matching Veronica's registered interests will be approaching. She hasn't registered to actually go to that event, so the organization reaches out to her through SMS to engage her at the right time, and she opts to register for the event and participate, taking her from being a new account all the way to being a loyal and active supporter. So that's the broad overview of the entire journey. Now we'll take a look at the specific experiences that that journey is made up of. If we go to the first slide here, we'll see we have Veronica's personalized email. So on the right side of the screen, you see the email greets her by name. So that raises the message's relevance because it's not just some generic dear customer letter. It's formatted for her device. She's looking at it on mobile, so it's easy to read and visually process. The email reminds Veronica of what she found enticing about this particular organization, their involvement in the local community, and it invites her to watch her personalized video. So there's a clear call to action there. If we look at the lower left of the screen, you can see the interface for creating this email. As you can see, it's a drag and drop kind of interface. So you're choosing blocks from the right side to drop into the design area on the left. You can add images, buttons, dividers, text blocks, tables, different layouts, and then you can modify elements in different ways. Change the colors of the buttons, for example, or add or subtract padding, all kinds of different options to make it look exactly how you need it to look. Designing the email only takes a few minutes, and then personalizing the email is easy with Engage One's approach that enables you to easily add your data and then use it however you want in the body of the communication. So you can see the green first name bubble there. That's an example of one of the personalizations available based on the data. And you can specify a default. So if there's an issue with the data, an entry is missing, first name, for example, you don't get a blank result. You'll see the word friend, I think, as we have it there. So that's a pretty straightforward example. But if you wanted to push the communication further by adding conditionals to it, you can. For example, if you want to tailor promotions or other content based on what the recipient has or maybe has not purchased from you, you can do that easily as well. And then when you're ready, you can preview the communication within the designer to see how it looks on desktop, tablet, and mobile. You can preview with data applied, so you can spot check personalizations based on your data set. And you can send a test run to gather feedback that way as well. So it's a very flexible approach that means you can launch emails in minutes, not days or weeks. So if we go back to Veronica and onto the next slide, she clicks the button in the email, and that leads her to her personalized interactive video. This is an immersive, real-time experience that combines video, music, voiceover, forms, buttons, and data to help Veronica understand what she's signed up for and what the next logical next steps are for her, and lets her also drive the experience because her choices determine what happens next. In the segment of the video that was just playing, she's presented with options of how she would prefer to help her local community in conjunction with this bank. So she chooses part cleanup volunteer and to learn more about the bank's app. And now if you look at the lower left corner, you can see the interface used to create this experience. It's a web-based interface like everything that we're looking at here that enables an average knowledge worker to quickly create real-time interactive personalized videos, pulling in video assets from a library that we provide or uploading your own branded video assets. For the voiceovers, you don't need to hire a professional to narrate. Instead, you can use our built-in AI-driven text-to-speech capability that lets you choose from dozens of different voices, male, female, different nationalities, to really bring life to the experience. And it's all backed by analytics, so you can track performance to understand how users are engaging with your videos. We're talking about an onboarding experience here, but you could just as easily do um, an event invite, a product explainer, a check-in video. Maybe it's a sales situation. You could send a follow-up to a sales meeting. There are many use cases for this kind of technology. If we go to the next slide, we'll look at the next part of her journey. So Veronica, so based on her personalized video experience, she decides to check out the app. Before she downloads it, she has some questions and she engages the bank's chatbot to get some answers. Now, this is an automated conversation. As you can see here from the example, it's more like a modern messaging app experience than a traditional text exchange. So we have interactivity, right? There are buttons, there are menus, image carousels, all these different options that really propel a conversation forward quickly, taking away some of the pain that you might experience typing on a mobile keyboard, for example. At a certain point in the conversation, Veronica asks a question that the automation was just not best suited to answer. So the bot automatically escalates to a live agent and seamlessly transitions. And you can see that on the right side of the screen, that box there. The agent introduces themselves before jumping in to actually resolve the situation. Over on the left side, you can see the live takeover interface, from the agent perspective. So the conversation requiring human intervention is highlighted in red. So that's Veronica in trouble. And the agent can click into it to see a preview of that conversation before they take it over. And that's actually really important because now they don't need to ask Veronica to repeat any of what she's already told the bot, which, if you've been in that kind of experience before, you switch channels and they lose context, so you have to repeat yourself. That's a very annoying and disruptive part of the experience. So with this approach, that's minimized. Instead, the agent can get the context beforehand and start the conversation from a more informed vantage point, in making for a better agent experience as well as a better consumer experience for Veronica. If we go to the next slide, we'll come to the last part of Veronica's journey. So remember, she's received the email, watched the video, had her questions answered by the chatbot with live takeover. And now we're a couple of weeks down the line, and an event is coming up in a couple of days that we want to make her aware of and participate in. She's already given us permission to contact her by text message. She's told us beforehand that she's interested in this kind of event. Remember, volunteering to clean up local parks. So time is running out. She hasn't registered for the event yet. So we send her a personalized SMS. We greet her by name and provide info on what to do next. Research shows that 95% of text messages are opened within 3 minutes of delivery. So Veronica notices the message come in, she reads it, and decides to take action. She registers for the event. In the lower left, you can see the interface for creating the SMS. Again, a really clean interface that lets you create the message, personalize it using data, and provides feedback on how many characters you've used to help you stay concise and on message. If we go to the next slide. So behind the scenes, there are analytics capturing data on how your customers are interacting with these communications. So this here is an example of the reporting dashboard for emails and SMS, which you can break down by date range. So you can see the metrics for how many messages were sent, how many were opened, bounced, clicks for emails, and then drill down to the individual user levels so you can see how the individual recipients interacted with your messages. For videos and chatbots, the reporting looks different because they're measuring different things, but you still get the information that you need to understand how your customers interacted, so that way you can optimize as you move forward. If we go to the next slide, we have some other journeys here. So we went through an onboarding journey, but of course, you could apply these technologies to an array of different use cases. So here are just 3 more ideas. So maybe get your mind, get your gears kind of turning. So if you think of an acquisition experience or renewals or appointment scheduling, that's another big one. All of these are great opportunities to leverage digital to create compelling, personalized consumer experiences, right? SMS for when you need that immediate response, chatbots with live takeover for when you need that human touch, and interactive personalized video. All of these things help you drive business results, right? They help you streamline process, minimize the costs of last minute cancellations or no-show appointments, or market new products more effectively at a lower cost. I'll go to the next slide. So as we've seen here, right, CX leaders know that it's not just the future that's digital, it's now, and that these seamless, personalized digital experiences drive results. So if you like what you've seen here today, I would encourage you to check out our booth, or you can connect with me offline. So thank you for your time. That's it for me.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. An applause for me. And what I find really interesting, and maybe we have a few minutes to elaborate on that, because questions are being answered in chat, so we don't even have to do that anymore, is what I find interesting, we didn't elaborate on that this morning, is the quick to build statement. And from our profession, we sometimes tie that to what we call business delegation. Right? Why is that so important to you? And how did you let's say compensate for that in the offerings you have?
That's a great question. So we've invested a lot in our UX team to get in and do those kind of conversations, evaluations with folks across the business. So the interesting thing to me that's really jumped out over the last 6 to 12 months has been we tend to focus on what we call like the knowledge worker, like somebody within the business, and making tools that are really easy for them to use, right? So, you saw drag and drop and some of the other ideas in there. What's interesting though is that that also applies in some ways to the more technical users as well, right? So, they're not looking for, there are different uses, right? Somebody who's maybe in the marketing division, they're probably not going to set up, you know, conditional statements for which promotions to show to somebody. They're going to turn that over to a marketing specialist. But the marketing specialist is looking for something similar to the business user in the sense of they want a nice interface to use, something that lets them do what they need to do, but do it faster, easier, because they have so many demands on them, so much they need to do. So that's where I see kind of the crossover, right? Really taking this approach of everybody needs to get the work done faster because it's piling up, situations are changing constantly. So giving them the ability to create these kind of experiences faster and learn about them faster and adjust as they need to. Yeah, that's critical for them. So it's critical for us to reflect that in the software too.
I can imagine. Yeah, I've got one more question before I hand you off to Philippe, who also has one for you. You talked about accountability, and also something we did not discuss in great detail this morning was about, that digital self-service or digital interaction will enable you not only to be, let's say, interactive, but it'll also enable you to really track, trace, and measure what your customer is doing. By the way, on the verge of maybe becoming, and that was already discussed, too personal and creepy. But do you have any specific examples on how to use those analytics and statistics to improve, let's say, your customer experience?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'll use chatbots. I think is a good example here. So what we've seen for some customers, so they start out with, they need to reduce that kind of 80% of the kind of stuff that doesn't require a human to actually answer, right? It clogs up the queue, and uh, what they do is implement kind of those top 3 to 5 FAQs, right? So this is what takes up most of the agent's time. It doesn't require a human to answer. Let's kind of take care of those first. And typically what they see coming out of that is, you know, they get the good response. Yeah, they're clearing out the queue, but then they're also learning things along the way. Certain questions come in that the bot, wasn't programmed to handle, right? It's handling these 5 things, not this kind of one-off thing. But then interestingly, looking at the analytics of that one-off thing tips them off to something else that's happening in the business that they weren't aware of. So kind of getting that flash of insight that then says, oh, okay, didn't hear about that. Let's go talk to customer service or whomever to kind of see, is this a bigger issue that we don't know about? Or is this kind of a canary in a coal mine sort of situation? So I think that's one example of kind of deploying one of these technologies, addressing the situation, and then seeing as a result of that there's actually some other stuff that we didn't know about that then they can take some action on.
Well, that's a great answer, Chris. And I still remember, by the way, with the Star SHL chatbot we did, just about the first day we went live, their call center, their phone system died. So then the chatbot became the only way for customers to even be able to contact and give back the feedback, and triggered that there was something wrong. So that's another way of looking at that as well.
Right.
Philippe has got one question for you
Yeah,
as well.
sure. I have
Last
one,
one.
Chris. Yeah, Chris, we have met a lot lately. My new friend online. I see you again. Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, I see you dressed up.
Yeah, sorry. We are in Europe. Americans are a bit different, but we have GDPR here. So there is a question around GDPR. So, how great is the impact on reaching the customers being blocked by GDPR? I think you know the answer. I also have my opinion on that. But share your thoughts on that one, Chris.
Yeah, so it is definitely, you want permission in order to contact folks, right? So you're not sending out SMS that somebody has not allowed you to send. You don't want to be in that sort of position. So it's definitely a complicating factor. And it does point to one of the ideas too around, I think, data integrity and making sure that, before you do these things, making sure you've got the data right, making sure you have the permission. Um, and if somebody decides that they don't want communication with you after that point, making sure you have the processes in place to kind of account for that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's about getting the permission right. And once you've got the permission, it's also respecting that
Right.
permission you got. And if not, just for all the audience, all the servers are located in Europe, so we're safe there. And if required, we can delete all the data without any issues. So I think that looking at the time,
Yeah.
Chris.
Chris, it was a great pleasure talking with you again. Thank you for sacrificing your time to be here virtually with us. Next time, I hope it'll be personal. And see you next time. Bye-bye. Yes, you've seen the title already, so those are some big shoes to fill. From our partner, Smart Communications, we also utilize some of their solutions to build quite compelling use cases. One of them, which you can see in our booth, by the way, we integrated just about everything you've heard so far and are going to hear in one use case. So I really would like to welcome to the stage Mr. Neil Keane. And there he is.
Patrick, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and I hope you do as well.
Doing very well.
What's the time in your place?
Oh, it's 7:45 in the morning. It's fine.
Ah, okay. So we're in the same
It's
time zone as
midday.
Greg. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll tell me when to click, and some of your colleagues, but even some of your former colleagues, have talked in great deal about your presentation skills. So the bar is high. So take it away.
Was that Greg?
Take it away.
All right, sounds great. Thanks everyone for joining us today. It's good to be here. This is a great show, great venue and event. Since we can't be together face to face, this is the next best thing. So my hat's off to the entire Dialog team for pulling this together. If you'd like to go ahead and start go to the first slide. Today, what we wanted to kind of cover through is what Patrick was talking a little bit about, of how you can better engage clients when you're thinking along the lines of making it more intuitive, interactive, and eliminating forms from a process. Forms right now are a challenge in the best of times, but in the time of COVID, it's very difficult when you can't get face-to-face. You can't talk with people in the call center easily. So the focus has really been around how do we make this process truly digital end to end. Just looking back, I think the obligatory slide on COVID, we've gone through three phases right now. And I think we've definitely hit the uncertainty phase. First was everyone working from home. Next was all of our customers are having challenges, people out of work, people not able to get in touch with you, call center people working remotely. How do I get my questions answered? Even in the case of mail, physical mail coming in, businesses having to figure out how to get renewals in inbound money or making payments out have been a challenge. And then this uncertainty of watching the spikes come and go have really led to a lot of challenges about what is our business going to look like for the rest of this year and for next. And if you'll go to the next slide quickly, the key here is we've entered into this state where digital is the driver. And as Jeff Bezos says, the only sustainable advantage you can have is agility. We have learned that as companies and as customers, we can adapt. We can be very agile. So continuing to improve the business process at every stage of the journey is going to be key. And it comes on the back of some of the things that Chris just said. So if you'll go to the next slide. As we look at that journey, one of the key things we've recognized, and I think both Greg and Chris have talked about this, is the customer's in control now, more so than they've ever been. They expect you to engage with them in the way they want. I think Chris said it quite well. They don't they don't look at you and say, oh, chat line is down. And give you they understand the issues that you're going through. So 1 in 3 customers that have that will leave a brand that they love. I think that's the exact same quote from Chris just a few seconds ago. So the balance of power has shifted. Customers are in control, and as they are more in control, we want to give them more capabilities so they can address engaging us more effectively. If you go to the next slide. Just by way of example, Forrester recently did a study just of what happened during COVID. And I was kind of really surprised by some of these. A number of customers said 20% had paid bills online for the first time, 19% had banked online for the first time, and 18% had used a digital payment method. I was really surprised at the fact that still 20% of people have not used digital in banking for simple things like banking online and paying bills. There's a lot of people who have had to change their behaviors. They're not going to be going back to the traditional ways. So how do we engage them and help make it easier for them to work with us? If you go to the next slide here, the key is going to be thinking about it, not only from their perspective, but what others in the business are doing. We're not just competing with traditional competitors in banking or insurance or across our area of the business. We're competing with Amazon. We're competing with Tesla. We're competing with the last best digital experience that someone had. So we want to raise the game, raise the bar, and the key is going to be how do we connect all these systems together. So if you get to the next slide. So if we look at what the best practices are in the business, you really want to get this right, because when you do it right, when you have a strong ability to engage your clients where they are, we've seen that you can retain an average of 89% of your customers versus the benchmark average of 33%. So getting this right has consequences and benefits for both revenue and cost reduction. So we'll focus in on today about how we can help you when it comes to automating of inbound processes, especially transitioning forms. Next slide, please. So all of this is kind of culminating in a shift. We've been doing communications, all of us in these meetings. Dialog has for years helped companies really lay the foundation of great communications. What we're seeing is this movement with digital to become really more of a smarter conversation. How do we engage with our customers and our employees, for that matter, in real time, but in a bi-directional way? They should be able to respond to us in real time. With very short attention spans, they want information now. They want to be able to start one channel, pick up on another channel, and not lose track of what's happened. They want to be able to work with different people in your business, and the other people in the business see the same information that they've seen or that person before them saw. So a conversation really is about knowing information about your customer, making it highly personalized when you communicate with them, but also guiding them back in. So when they need to respond to you or they need to initiate an engagement with you, they feel you know them. So if you'll get to the next slide. The way we see this, and we've seen some key initiatives in the business, modernization is core. It's key to everything that all of our banking, financial services, insurance customers have done for years. We're great at organizing and operationalizing different processes in the back office, whether it be CRM or archival or CCM or just updating the core data system. We've become experts in being able to do that. The key has been a separate parallel track in a lot of businesses has been, let's create a new mobile application. Let's digitally transform the experience for this process or that process. The challenge has been, these have been two separate parallel tracks in a lot of cases. These need to come together. They are an extension of each other. So companies who are doing, if you're looking at or doing a core modernization, you should be considering how every one of your customers across every channel is going to engage with you to buy that product or service that product. This is where we really have focused in with what we're going to talk about today, about helping you transform that front-end experience around the forms, regardless of the channel that they need to come to you in. So if you'll get to the next slide, and one more click, if you will. So from the standpoint of communications, this is what we've done quite well for a number of years. It's take a triggered event, take a request that comes from inside of the company, generate the right communication at the right time in the right channel to send that out. Typically call this CCM, it's batch interactive on demand. But if you click through one more time now, Patrick, the key is what happens when someone needs to respond to you. You've sent out some information, you sent out, whether it be a statement, a letter, or we need someone to respond, or they may want to initiate something. This is where a lot of friction in the process comes in, because there's still a lot of manual paper processes, forms processes, even online screens that are simple web forms that just capture data that someone has to get involved in that may need to be rekeyed. This is where forms transformation and process automation come into play, because you want to make that as conversational as possible. How do I ask a question only once, collect the information I need from you, make those questions relevant and guided to get you to an outcome, not just an output. And when you close the loop by connecting these front-end experiences with your core systems, if you'll click one more time, Patrick, you have a new opportunity to get insights into the entire flow, this entire journey from beginning to end, as well as an opportunity to orchestrate. So as you work in one channel, you know that channel has been opened, has not been used. Maybe we escalate to different channels. So we can augment any preferences a customer may have set with information we have gathered about what they actually, what the channels they actually use. So you'll see a lot of this talk of closing the loop when it comes to the customer journey to continue on to get to an outcome quickly. So if you'll get to the next slide. So in thinking about forms, we've all dealt with forms of all sorts. I know currently right now we're in the process of doing open enrollment and benefits in our company, which means that we've got multiple healthcare firms, vision firms, sending us fillable PDF or paper forms today. But as we look forward, maybe the form of the future isn't a form at all. What we really should be looking at is this interactive questioning and answering to give them a guided experience, to guide them along the journey, but have it be responsive, work across any device, and reflexive. It only asks the questions that are needed. So let's look at how we can drive these two-way conversations and what this would look like. So in looking at a form, typically you would see an A4 piece of paper with lots of content on it. There are rules, there are instructions, there are fillable fields, lots of data, lots of things that people can get wrong. What we're doing now is helping transition that into this user experience like you see here, an adaptive interview that lets you build those question and answers in real time, get only the information you need, more importantly, invite others into the process. So it may require multiple steps, multiple workflows, multiple people, have those people automatically invited, either internally or externally as needed, to work through this problem they're trying to solve, and then connecting to the other systems of record, whether it be Salesforce or the core system, or even creating a case in a workflow management system. And we're going to show you some examples of these today. So if you go to the next slide. Forms processes are everywhere in the business. In the customer life cycle, whether it be at the acquiring, onboarding, or servicing stage, you will find forms that will walk you through an application or will help you in that first 90 days of getting used to using your new product that you may have acquired, and servicing, whether it be it's something as simple as changing your address information, all the way up to more sophisticated servicing of how would I take a loan against my life insurance balance, or how would I apply for a new product that's complementary in my banking products, complementary to things I already have. The key is to eliminate all these challenges at each of the steps and then connect them back to the systems of record. So let's show you a couple of examples. So we'll start with insurance. Click through to the next one. Insurance, we're all very familiar with. This is a standard insurance form. You'll notice a few things about it. The first is, in a lot of cases, we put the burden of selecting the right form on customers. If you Google the name of a company plus the word forms, more than likely you'll find an entire section of a website dedicated to applications, servicing, claims, address change and updates. Lots of opportunities for what is called not in good order. Errors of people not completing them correctly, or errors from things being incomplete. In addition, there are process steps that may require you to submit additional attachments, additional materials you need, more than just data. So how do we help collect a copy of previous coverage, for instance, get a photo of a previous insurance policy, and make certain that all that's tied together so that we can write that policy today, not in a week or 2 weeks' time. The key is being able to do this on any device, and quite honestly, mobile first. More and more people will expect that you can start on your phone almost any process and pick it up somewhere else. So I'm going to walk through an example of a commercial insurance application that's been reimagined. And in this particular case, the reimagining is there was a form for a rental property investor who is buying a new property. They are provided a form, but in this case, we're going to give them a different experience to collect that information. So if you go to the next slide, the traditional form you would fill out is on the left, but on the right is the online interactive adaptive interview. Instead of having them fill out the fields like you normally would on a form, it recognizes you're on your mobile phone. It asks, can I use your camera? The camera to take a photo of the driver's license or your ID. It calls an ID service and says, oh, here's all the information. Is this still accurate and correct? Also, it recognizes you're on your phone. Are you at the property? In this case, it calls a reverse geo lookup, precisely, calls the geo lookup, calls out to data sources and pulls 70 different data points about that property. And then it goes into the questions of what kind of insurance would you like? What do you need? If you know what kind of insurance you need, you can just select it. If you don't, it will walk you through a guided tour of the different options available to you to get the insurance that's required. At the completion of this, it calls the rating platform, gets the right rates, says, is this okay? And then by clicking, okay, I accept this, it automatically goes to creating the application and launching an e-signature platform so you can generate the signature and get to a bound policy quickly. So you can see how in the past, this would have been up to a 2-week process. With a form, this now can be taken down to a same-day process with an interview. Let's get to the next slide. The benefit of this is not just for the customers. One of the things that we've noticed is that when we're working with, especially insurers, the agents typically have been somewhat leery of working with digital because they may fear it interferes with that personal one-on-one relationship they have with the client. We find it to be the exact opposite. When you make things like this easier, they can focus on the higher value parts of the relationship, not the simpler data capture portions of the relationship. So there are benefits for both customer as well as employees and agents inside of your business. So keep that in mind when you're working with any of your partners. Partner with them, get them engaged early on so the adoption works, they adopt the product as well. So the next slide, please. So by way of example, this is a use case for one of the largest insurers in the States for title insurance. So insurance on when you're purchasing a home, you need insurance on the title to make sure the title is, if there are any questions about your title, you have someone to cover working through those details after you've made the purchase. In this particular case, their business challenge was they were doing about 3,000 open orders a day. A lot of these were forms that were being sent out from the mortgage broker, mortgage lender to someone to complete. They were getting these back. There were error rates. They put in the adaptive interview to allow them to provide this in any language. So